Hey, what's up YouTube? Donovan the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and tonight we're going to take a look at 4 flagship devices from 2017 so far. So I don't have every flagship phone as you can see, but I want to talk about 4 of the top flagships of the year so far. So we have the S8, the S8 Plus, the Huawei Mate 9, and the LG G6. So just as a quick heads up, I just want to let you guys know that this is going to be a completely subjective review. This is going to be just my experience with the devices, and I'm going to talk about in this video what my experience was like with each of these phones and talk about basically how I rank them in terms of build, performance, battery, screen, and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the build quality. So in terms of a sheer, like just which one is the most beautiful and easiest phone to hold, my personal preference, this is again very subjective, is for the S8 Plus. And it's partly just because it has a massive 6.2-inch screen, and that massive 6.2-inch screen is absolutely beautiful and it feels great to hold in the hand. Now, with that being said, the build quality on this phone is certainly not perfect. Obviously, the fingerprint sensor is kind of in an awkward position. Now, to be true, to be 100% truthful, I actually don't have a problem with the fingerprint sensor, but it's still not the most convenient position for it. But without a doubt, this is a beautiful phone, and I give it the #1 phone in terms of build quality. Number 2, obviously, would be the S8. And then I would say Mate 9 would be, the LG G6 would be 3rd, and then the Mate 9 would be 4th in terms of build quality. Now, these 3 all have glass backs. This one has a metal back, so something worth mentioning there. So that's just kind of my experience with it. This one is the least one-handed friendly, the Mate 9. It has a 5.9-inch display, and you know it's very manageable, and I really like the build of it, but of the 4, it's probably just my least favorite. Not saying anything negative necessarily about it. It's still a great phone. So in terms of performance, I rank these all as a tie. This is 100% truthful. I have not experienced any lag on any of these devices. Now, with that being said, I have here all 3 of these are the T-Mobile variants. So I have heard that with the G6 on certain carriers, there might be some lag from various reviewers, but my experience on the T-Mobile version has no lag. So this has the Snapdragon 821 processor. These both have the Snapdragon 835, and this has the HiSilicon Kirin 960. All of them perform very well. I'm not going to go into the Geekbench scores on any of them, just to tell you that in my experience, none of these have had any kind of lag. So I call that a 100% tie for that reason. I guess if I were to give the victory to any of them, I would say the least I guess performance issues I've ever had is with the Mate 9, but again, all of them are very fast, very fluid devices. Next thing I want to talk about is the battery life of these 4, because obviously that's something that's important to a lot of people. And in terms of the actual size of the battery, the Mate 9 has the largest battery. The S8 Plus has the second largest. So this has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. The S8 Plus has the 3,500 milliamp hour battery. The G6 has the 3,300 milliamp hour battery, and the S8 has the smallest battery at 3,000 milliamp hours. So with that being said, which one has the best battery life in my experience? And that goes to the Mate 9. It does have a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and it does get the best battery life in my experience. So I'm getting about 7 hours of screen time, give or take, with the Mate 9. The second place one would be the S8 Plus. With that device, I'm getting closer to like 6 hours of screen on time, which actually is pretty close to the S8. The S8, I was right around 5.5, and then with the G6, I was getting right around 5 hours. All that is to say that all of these have very acceptable battery life, in my opinion. Anything over 4.5, I consider an all-day battery, and even the G6 at 5 hours, I had no problem getting through a day. So something worth considering. All of these have fairly good battery life. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the front-facing cameras of each of these devices. So all of them feature 8-megapixel cameras. So the question is, which one has the best sensor in this case? So for me, the S8 and the S8 Plus take the win in terms of front-facing cameras, in terms of the picture quality, but The huge advantage of the LG G6 is that it does have wide angle as well. So it has a normal angle that you can take, but then it also has the option with that front-facing camera of taking a wide angle. So if we're looking here, we'll do that later. So if I switch to the front-facing camera, I do have the option of that wide angle, which is nice for those selfies, in case that's something you care about. Now, personally, I'm not a selfie person, and so it doesn't really matter. But in terms of the actual picture quality, I'd give that to the S8, S8 Plus, with a close second place being the G6, and then the Mate 9. The Mate 9, for some reason, for me, I wasn't super impressed with the front-facing camera. Not to say that it's a terrible one, but in low light, it wasn't the best in terms of the picture quality. And that's true with really all of them, but definitely the S8 and the S8 Plus took the best, clearest pictures for me on the front-facing camera. In terms of the rear-facing cameras, we have pretty different setup in each one of these. So we have 12 megapixels here, beautiful picture quality. Same thing with the S8. So the S8 and S8 Plus both have that same single 12 megapixel camera. The Mate 9 has the 20 megapixel and 12 megapixel dual camera setup there, and it gives a nice bokeh effect, and it does have those optics from Leica, so definitely something worth mentioning. The G6 also has a dual camera setup, but a completely different kind of dual camera setup where we have a narrow frame and a wide angle camera there. So again, kind of an advantage of the G6 is that wide angle camera, whereas you get the nice bokeh effect with the Mate 9. So which one do I like the best? Well, I would have to say that I give the win to the G6, and that's partially because of the addition of the wide angle camera, but also I just thought that it takes the most realistic pictures of the phones that we have represented here. In second place, I'd probably give it to the Mate 9. If we're talking about low light, though, I would say the Mate 9 probably has the least best camera in terms of low light. But in terms of good lighting, I would say the Mate 9 would be second for me, and then the S8 and S8 Plus. So it's kind of a surprise and a shock to a lot of people, I'm sure. But if you watch MKBHD's video where he compares all the flagship devices, honestly, the S8 and the iPhone 7 were the ones that I liked the least. And so just something worth mentioning. And then for me, the G6 would take first place there. Now, which one takes the best low light pictures? I'd actually give that to the S8 and the S8 Plus. It just brightens up those pictures a little bit better than the other ones. But still, all of these have excellent cameras. So something worth mentioning here, in my opinion. Next thing I want to talk about is the actual screen of each device. So at the moment, all of these devices are currently at 50%, or right around 50%, as close as I could get to it. And in my opinion, which device has the best screen? Well, this kind of goes without saying, but Samsung year after year always has the best screens. This is just in my experience, and I would say again with the S8 Plus, that's my number one. That 6.2-inch display, absolutely beautiful. Obviously, it's a 2K display. I've been actually using it at 1080p, but it's still beautiful even at 1080p. The Mate 9 is the only one out of this bunch that has a 1080p display, but I must say that the colors on this one are more punchy than they are on the G6, and so I would say that this one actually is second place for me. The S8 would be third. Still a very good display. It's 5.8-inch display, and then the G6 in fourth. And all of them have beautiful displays. It's just, for me, I prefer the Mate 9 over the G6. Just kind of my thought. For me, it's the more pleasant one to look at. The next thing I want to talk about is the software. So for me, I don't really love the software on any of them. Obviously, I prefer stock Android. So if I had to pick a software, I would pick the Moto G5 Plus, which is obviously not represented here because it's not a flagship device. That, for me, so far has been the best software experience. And I don't have the OnePlus 3T, so that one probably, if I had that one, might be the number one. But for me, out of these four devices, I would say the Mate 9. I just really like the way Huawei has implemented Nougat, and They have some nice gestures available in the fingerprint sensor, so that would be another thing that I really like. So just a lot of things that they've implemented into the Mate 9 and into Android Nougat. I would give that to the Mate 9. And then I don't really have a preference over LG Skin versus TouchWiz. They're kind of equal, and as you can see, I'm running Nova Launcher on all of them regardless, so it really doesn't matter. I just think that I like what Huawei has done with the Mate 9 in terms of the little bit of Nougat tweaks that they have. So the last thing I want to talk about is the extras. So which one of these devices has the most extras built into the device? So the S8 Plus is the one I'd have to give the win to in terms of the extras. So obviously it has waterproofing like the S8 and the G6, which the Mate 9 does not have. So that's awesome for those. These two devices have Bluetooth 5.0, which means you can actually pair it to two completely different speakers at the same time. That's awesome. They come with more accessories, so you get the VR experience if you pre-ordered it early enough, and you get those nice AKG headphones, regardless of whether they're AKG or Samsung. They're excellent headphones. So that's another huge bonus, and it also has fast charging. And these three devices charge faster than the Mate 9. Even though the Mate 9 has fast charging, it does not charge as fast as the other three. So something worth mentioning. The G6, what does that have to offer? Well, it comes with Google Home, which if I could pick any accessory that any of these come with, that's my number one. I really like the Google Home. I've only been using it for 3 days, and I got to say that I love it. So that was awesome. It also is waterproof, I already mentioned that, and it does have fast charging as well, and you can use it wireless charging as well. These two fast wireless charge, this one does not, so a little advantage, and then the Mate 9 doesn't wireless charge at all because it has the metal back. Now, what does the Mate 9 have to offer that these ones don't have? Well, it has dual speakers, so in terms of the speaker quality, I give that to the Mate 9 for sure. It does come with a pair of headphones, and it does have fast charging as well. So which device is my favorite? Well, I gotta say that they're all great devices. If I had to choose one, I would go with the S8 Plus. Oops. If I had to choose a second place, I'd go with the Mate 9. The G6 and the S8 are both, I mean, all of these are great devices. You really can't go wrong with any of them. Which one is best for you? I can't really answer that question for you, but I think they're all excellent devices, all worth considering. The G6 is a phenomenal device this year, and I don't think it's something that you should pass up just because the S8, looks better, for some people. I think the G6 is an awesome device. The Mate 9 is an awesome device. The problem with the Mate 9 is that you can't get it on carriers. It's going to be completely unlocked, so you're going to have to pay for the full price up front, so that's something worth considering, whereas with these devices, the G6 right now you can get for half price on AT&T, which is awesome. So something worth considering as well. But anyways, all awesome devices. If you have any questions about any of them, about my experience on any of them, go ahead and leave those down in the comment section. I'd be more than glad to answer those questions for you. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.